Masechta Shavous, Daf Yud Aleph Amid Beis. Today's Daf Yud Beis. We're up to the Abba Avidim Rabavim. Yesterday we learned that Reb Shimon doesn't hold of the din of Lev Bezdin Masna Aleim, meaning that if there's like by the case of the Tmidim,
if you don't use the whole thing,
if you're not going to use it, like the case of the Tmidim, that out of the 6 animals they would choose 2 animals for the Talmud Shel Shachris and the Talmud Shel Arvis, and you were left over with 4 behemoths. It had to be from the shkolim of that year of, let's say, Pei Dalet. Now we're in Pei Hey. So what do we do with the 4 animals? If it's late, let's say, what could you do with it? Reb Shimon doesn't hold of that Bezdin, Lev Bezdin is Masna Aleim, that it makes it Ois Kedusha like. I'm giving you an example of that. Says the Gemara, so he doesn't hold of this concept of Lev Bezdin Masna Aleim.
What happens with those animals?
So it's you usually leave it till it gets a moment, and then you redeem it.
In other words, you can't use them right away.
You can't say that the Kedusha Haguf wasn't Chal because Lev Bezdin Masna Aleim. So the Gemara brings a mucker.
Isn't what he says make sense? Why does it move and then you can do
Right.
it? Instead of having to wait, law and Bezin said this.
So the Gemara brings a mucker that Rabbi Shimon argues. Where do we see that? That said in the name of Rabbi Amram, in the name of Rabbi Yechon, those Tmidin that are not needed for the Tmidin, and now it's actual. Rabbi Shimon ain't nibdim Tmimim. According to Rabbi Shimon, you can't redeem it while it's alive. You have, as a regular Tmimim means as a Tomim, to be able to use it right away. You have to wait till it gets a home. And that's the only, and then you sell it, meaning you redeem it, and then you buy other kabbanas. But according to Chachamim, you could, because he says the Kedush Saguf was not Chal, and it could be transferred to money.
So why you have to redeem
Because
it?
Labez the Masna Leim.
So if it wasn't Masna Leim, they
So they use it. They use the Tmidim. They buy it with the new Shkolim, because you can't use Behemoths and Pei Hey from the Shkolim of Pei Dalit.
So what do you mean, Nibdim?
Nibdim means
You
that
don't
it
have to
could be.
wait till they
You don't have to wait till it gets home and then
then
until it gets
sell it.
home and then sell that animal and not use the animal. No, you can use those animals.
Because it belongs to
There is no,
Heritage.
it's kedusha that there is no. You're right that mitzat kedusha zaguf you shouldn't be able to redeem it. You can't take away kedusha zaguf, and the kedusha zaguf is from Pei Dalit. So how could you redeem it? So there's no kedusha zaguf. That's not mas now. Layim.
So you have to.
So since the best mas now layim, it's still kaddish. It's kedusha damim. So you redeem it with shkolim, and you use the shkolim of the new year of Pei. Who are the Rabbanon that argue? Those Chacham that argue on Reb Shimon and hold that Lebez Masna Aleim. Who are they? In the Rabbanon the Keteiros. If you can say, oh, it's the Rabbanon that paskin by the Keteiros. If you remember yesterday, it's leftover Keteiros. What could he do? Instead of giving the money, you don't even have to give the money to Beis Haftinas. The Lishka that paid Beis Haftinas lets them notify them and says, look, we're going to use your money, we're going to buy the Keteiros because the Keteiros is from last year. And then, so now the Keteiros is yours, and now we're going to take away the Keteiros with the new Shkolim. We're going to pay with the Keteiros, and then we're going to buy back the Keteiros from you, and you'll have your money. No problem. One hand gives to the other. Says, how could you bring a right from Keteiros that you can redeem Kedush Zaguf? Shiny Keteiros la bari. Keteiros has no other way of redeeming it. You can't say, oh, by the Keteiros, let the Keteiros go in the Sada, and this you get Tamum. So Keteiros in the Shach, there's no Takana. Then you'll say, la bez masna aleim. But by the Behemoths, that's the only place where you have a solution. Let it get a mum and then sell it and redeem it. So who says that we're going to say? So you can't prove. You can't compare it to Keteiros. Says we want to bring a raya. Which Rabbanan was it? The Paskin that you could be paid to them as Tmimim from Keteiros. Keteiros no raya. Keteiros has no takana of leaving it in the field till it gets a mum versus Behemoths. You leave it in the field till it gets a mum.
Like business master, you want to say?
Yeah.
You can't bring a right from
Ketores you can't bring a raya. Said Yomar rather from where the Rabbanan the Potter. If you remember, we learned by Potter Haduma that even if you found a nicer Potter than the previous one, you can change it. You can redeem it. This Kedushas Haguf. So he says Dilma Shiny Potter. Says maybe you can't bring a raya from Potter. Potter the Domeha you cut it. It's very expensive. So it's they want you to be able to get back your money. Let's say you paid like the guy. The Hagdish should get back the money. Like this guy who was called Dama Ben Esina that they bought for 600,000 dinarim, golden and dinarim. They bought it from this guy, so it was very expensive. Yeah. So maybe if they don't want it, so they want to redeem it, they want to get back that money. It's a lot of money. Big investment. So maybe,
cheaper, you mean?
yeah, or they can get a nicer putter for the same price. Says you want a Dumashani putter than a Meir car. Allah says no. You know which Rabbanan that's referring to? The Rabbanan the Amrulai, to the Rabbanan that said to Rabbi Shimon, and they told him, if you remember yesterday, since the kaparas are not similar for each carbon, Rabbi Shimon said the sir is a machitzain forgives only for that there was only a yedi at the end, no yedi l'tchila. The Sir Golim forgives for the Aveda that there was no yedi loy b'tchila v'loy b'asayf. The Sirei Rashi Hadashim, it's good that I remember it. It only forgives for Adam Tahir that ain't kachim tmeim. So how could we say that one behemoth should forgive for the other? That's what they is.
So different.
That's what they is to him. Says the Gemara.
Because he said that all the Seirim are equal.
We said that we paskin that if by one of the Seirim was lost, you could, and then they found it, you could use it for the next, for the Sirish Chedesh. Let's say the Sir Izim Achitzin that was for Yom Kippur was lost, and now it's and you found the behemoth, you can now use it for Siri Golim, or you can now use it for Siri Rosh Chodashim. How? Each one represents a different Aveda, right? So those Chachamim that told Reb Shimon,
Different purpose.
huh?
For different purpose.
Each forgives for something else.
For a different purpose, correct. So according to some Chachamim said we have no problem because we say lev based in masna leim. So it got lost. There was no kedushas dam. Now we can use the behemoth for another thing. Big deal. But according to you, Reb Shimon, that you don't hold lev based in masna leim, we have a problem. But, so how could you use this behemoth for another? In fact, you might have made Rabbi Yehudi. From where is the mashma that the words of the Chachamim that said to Rabbi Shimon was Rabbi Yehuda? It's really Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says that we want to say is the one that says that each one could forgive for the other because of Labaz Masnalei, and this is what Rabbi Yehuda said to them. Bishlan, you're thinking, what did Rabbi Yehuda ask on Rabbi Shimon? And he's spelling it out now. You want to say it's the Rabbanim, meaning including Rabbi Yehuda, that asked on Rabbi Shimon, how could it be that when you find an animal, you can use it for different Yom Tovim? What was his question? He says, Bishlan L'Didi. Rabbi Yehuda says, it's understood, according to me, the Amina, that I say, based on Masna Le'yem. So there was no Kedushas Haguf. So it's good, okay, I found the behemoth, and it's a behemoth that's not needed. Doesn't have Kedushas Haguf, does it? He's given it tonight. I can use it for another Yom Tov.
Still designated for as a sar.
A sar, yes. So we'll use it for a different sar. For sar Regalim. If it's the next one, sar Chedesh, sar Chedesh. Says the Gemara, Am Tulahachi. Because of that, Yikavu. That's why we say one could, whatever is, he can use it for whatever Yom Tov is right nearby and use the behemoth of the sar for that. Elaladi, Dr. Hamlet Loi. But you, Rav Shimon, who says that we don't say Lev Bezdin Masnah Le'yem, Amayikavu, why should they be able to be makar? There's a Kedushas Haguf. If there's a Kedushas Haguf, Dafke for Se'izim Bachutz, which is only forgiving for the Aveda, where there was only a Yediyah at the end, Yedi Basaf, no Yedi Betchila, how could it be used now for Seder or Golem, which represents a sin where there was Lo Yedi Betchila, Lo Yedi Basaf? Or for Siri Rosh Chodashim, which is Adam Torah that ain't kachim tmei.
For different purposes.
Yeah, says Dilma. Says what's the raya? That was the kasha. Dilma Rab Meir. Maybe who was the chacham that was asking? Was Rab Meir. Rab Meir was saying to him like this.
Same thing.
But he says, but not mitzad lebez masna aleim.
Oh, you can't prove it's
He says
Yehuda.
you can't prove.
It could be Rameh also.
Rameya is the question, and Rameya is asking
It
from
could
a
be
different,
either one, no?
and he's not asking from the angle of lebez masna aleim.
Why is Rameh?
Rameya could say Bishlan. Rameya was saying Bishlan ledi. It's understood according to me. The amina that I say kol hasiirim kaparas and shava. We learned that yesterday. All the siirim, the kapara is equal. Ela ledidach. According to you, Rab Shimon, you say no, the kaparas and the shava. Yeah, they know it's design purpose. Like I'm using his word as a different aveda. So he says, so why should it be up to be makiv? So the kasha wasn't because I hold leb baz masna leim, so that's why. No, the kasha is Rab Meir frektifem. Rab Meir says the kapara for each one to be mechapa and all the avedas. So why should it be kasha? And nothing to do with leb baz masna leim. So you can't prove that the rabbanon from this case, this rabbanon that Esther Rab Shimon was asking mitzad leb baz masna leim. Has no, you have no raya. It could be he was asking. Rab Meir was the one that was asking, and all the kaparas of seeing him on Shabbat, are equal. Says Gemara, Rab Yochanan. Only we're going to conclude. Rab Yochanan, Gemara Gamir Law. Only Rab Yochanan accepted it from his rabbis that the reason why you could redeem the Dalid behemoths, the Tamidim Shalei Hutzechu, is because he holds lebbez and masnaleim. It's halacha that he received from his rebbes. So now it comes. The conclusion is like this.
So who's this?
So that's Rab Yochanan. So he says, "Lid the Rab Shimon." Now we're going to conclude. According to the words of Rab Shimon, ein nivdin. He wasn't mekabel from his rebbes this way. Divrei Chachamim nivdin. Right, but according to the words of Chachamim, it is redeemed. Nothing to do with. That we have another Rabbanan, a Mishnah, a Brais that comes to some of them. Gemara immediately, Rabbi Yochanan learned to have halachi azeh to mekabel given. That's how he's makabel from his rebbes. Yeah. In fact, Gemara Rabbi Shimon the Leslie, but let Bez Masnalei, and he doesn't hold of the concept as Bez makes it tonight. So what does he do with his behemoth? Is there a way to be mashid this behemoth? To be sacrificed on the mizbeach. I mean, Rabbi Yitzhak. No, what do you do?
Designated originally. What do you do? All of a sudden, is the kedusha Iranian?
No, the kedusha. You're right. He says you redeem it. You have to wait. He says, what do we say? He doesn't hold mastin bezin, so it's not nivda while they're tomim. You have to wait till they get a mum. So what do you do with them?
Oh, in the meantime, you got to feed them till.
No, what do you do with the money? What are you going to do with the money? What do you do with the money of that animal? You're selling it, right? You wait till it gets a mum, you sell it, and what do you do with the money?
Not getting a mum. So what do
No,
do?
you wait till it gets a mum. You have to make sure. It gets a mum, eventually gets a mum. Yes.
So what Gemara asks, what do you do with these behemoths? These poor behemoths, they're sitting in the field and they're eating food. You got to feed them, no? You're not going to waste to let them die. Worth money.
Huh?
They're worth money in the end.
Or you could use it for something else. He wants to know. Oh, what could you do with these animals if it doesn't get a mum also? You could ask. So you put it on the mizbeach when the mizbeach was empty. That's called kites hamizbeach. When the mizbeach is given bottles and is given kinkabanis, so they need to fill it up. So they use these behemoths. Huh? Then you put the behemoth on the mizbeach. Yeah, they shechted it.
You don't have to wait for a mum.
No, doesn't seem like it. Says over here. So he brings down Lafi Chachamim Mekim Shalabaz Masnalim Al Tmimim Shim La Yitzalei Tehei Bahar Kedush Tam Nit Levdais Ba'idam Tmimim Choshen Las V'Knes B'Shikli Hashana Hashana Chadasha. So according to Reb Shimon, you use it for the new year. Shebekach Nas Mehem Ruin Likar B'Tmimim B'Shana Chadasha. But according to Reb Shimon, since Ein Lebez Masna Al Kedush Hasam, and they have Kedush Saguf, and you cannot be paid to them between Musam. So the Gemara want to know if there's a way, if you can be paid to them between Musam, to use it for the new year. Is there a way to use it as is for something else, not for Tmimim, not for Tmidin, for something else? Could you use it? So he says, yeah, you could use it for Kaitz HaMizbeach, whenever the Mizbeach was bottled.
So the Mizbeach always had to be
full, had to have animals on it. Yeshachtim. Amar Rav Shmuel Rav Yitzchak. Rav Shmuel Rav Yitzchak said, Moida Rav Shimon b'Sidei Chatois. Rav Shimon is Moida by Sidei Chatois if it was designated for a Chatos. Forget about Tmidim. Tmidim, it's a Oila, so this is also in the family of Oila, so it's called Oilas Kayitz. So since it's called Oilas Kayitz, so you can use it for the summer also. You can use it when the Mizbeach was empty. But how about if the animal that ran away and came back was designated for a Sorry Chatos? It was not for Oila, for a Chatos. Sheim Kaitz Megufam. Now you can't use it on the Mizbeach because it's two different families. It's not a Oila, here it's a Chatos.
Because in other words, it becomes an oiler, right?
Oila. So if it was a Tamid is also Oila. Oila's Tamid. So if you put it in the time when the Mizbeach was empty, that's called Oila also. Oila's Nadab. But if you're talking about that it was designated for Chatos, so you have to eat part of it, and not only that it's a different carbon. It's for different reasons. It's not in the same family. So he says Sheim Mikitz Megufam Elabitz Meyam. Then you can only use the money. Says Yimada Hachahu here Dafke by Tmidim, where we said the 4 animals were left over as Tmidim. To begin with, it was Tamid, and now if you find it or you're left over with it, you're using it as oila anyway for the oilas nedava for the kayitz when it's empty. Aval hasam, but over there by the sirichatas tzibur that ran away and now came back. I mean, caught a chatas for hashta oila. To begin with, it was a chatas, and now you're going to use it as oila. So therefore, you can't use it. Why? Really, you should be able to use it. But it was a gzeda. They were afraid that if the chatas comes back before you shach the new animal that you designated for a chatas, officially that one that came back is the one that you have to sacrifice as a chatas. So therefore, it would be usher to put it on. The second one is a substitute, correct? So then we're afraid that once he said last year, you shachten the chatas, the new one, and the old one came back, you are allowed to use the Pa'ilas Kayitz. So you'll say even before the Shechita, and it comes back, you might make the mistake, and use the new one, and the old one, you'll put it back on, you'll put it on the Kayitz HaMizbecha. That's already Yasser. Because if it came back on time before the Shechita, the original animal, you're not allowed to sacrifice that as Oila. So
Sacrifice the new one, you mean?
The old one as Oila, to put it on the Mizbecha. So Abaya said, I'll bring you an ayah, we hold of this Gzeda, that we're afraid for Lacha Kapara. And he's going to bring you 3 rayas. Abaya says, Afanana mitanina. We also learned in a Mishnah, in the words of Tatanoim, like Rab Shimon, that were Goiza, Par v'soy Yom HaKippurim she'avdu. The par and the soyer of Yom HaKippurim that got lost before the Shechita, the Hifrish, and he separated Achirim Tachtayim, other animals in its place. Okay? She'avdu v'hifrish Achirim Tachtayim. We just said, Kulon Yamusa, they all have to die. If the behemoths come back, those that he designated for a chatas, and they come back, it was a Sir Tzibur that ran away and came back, they all die. So if you want to do Rabbi Yehuda, those are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, name him. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you don't kill them. You leave it till they passion sich, they eat till they get a mum, and then you sell it. And you wait, and that the money that you sold, the behemoths that you redeemed, that you sold these animals, then you give for an adava she'ein chatas tzibur mesa. A chatas tzibur you can't kill. It's only a chatas yochid. There's a person that says only al tzioch nish a chatas tzibur. Let them take this animal that came back, the Sidi Chatois. Why do you have to wait till it gets a mum, and then use the money and buy a behema and put it on the mizbeach when the mizbeach is empty? Take this animal itself and put it on the mizbeach when it's empty.
It was a chatas before, right?
Yeah. So what's the problem? He already was making his chatas. So this animal is like is no more. It's leihutzechu. So let him use it for kais hamizbeach. Obviously, because even now you might do it right. You took another animal in its place and you shechted it and you had a kapara for the chatas tzibur. And now, and the animal comes. Yeah, you're right. You can put it on his way, but we're afraid the animal will come back before they shech the chatas tzibur, the second one, before the second one gets shech, and the first one is back. So we're afraid. No, we'll shech the second one. The first one we'll put on the mizbech. You're not allowed to put it on the mizbech. It's a chatas still because it's back before it's time. Amar Rava, that was the second eye. Amar Rava says, I have another eye. We also learn. What is it talking about? It says that on Yom Kippur they had two Seidim, Gedol Hashem and Lazazel, and they would make a Gedol. If one of them ran away, right? Which one? The one Lazazel ran away. Now they have to get another two. New two, or the Lazazel died. Let's use that case. I think he uses the case that the Azazel died. The one for Azazel died.
Before they threw him down.
Before they threw him down. Now you have the Gedol Hashem, but he can't. You have to take another two and make another Gedol. Which one is Azazel? Which one is Hashem? Okay, so they make the Gedol. There's one Gedol Hashem. But we have last year, the last one, we have two Gedol Hashem. So what do we do with them? So he says...
So you have a good one that's supposed to be Makru. The Zazel, you said the Azazel died. So now we have a new Azazel.
Yeah, that's fine, but you have two Gedol Hashems. Originally, you had a Gedol Hashem and a Lazazel. You made the Gedol. 1 minute, you made a Gedol. The one that has the Lazazel dies. So you're left with Gedol Hashem. We said we got to do over the whole Gedol. Take two or more animals. So now we have a Gedol Hashem, a new Gedol Hashem, and Lazazel. What do we do with the second Gedol Hashem? So he says, yeah. So he says, so the second one, we leave, it doesn't have to be the one that we just made, the original one. Sheni means it could be the original one, which we didn't use in the girdle in the last time. So what do we do with it? We have a second one. So he says, what do? You leave it till it gets a mum, and then you macher, you sell it, and then you use the money for, you buy your animal and use it for when the mizbech is empty, let's say. So he says, why? Be market that itself as a oila. Take. What do you have to go through the whole process? Eventually, what are you going to do with the money? Buy your animal and put it on the mizbech. Take this animal, which is fine, and put it on the mizbech. So because we're afraid that what's going to happen. That let's say the animal ran away, the Azazel ran away, and now the first Gedol Hashem comes out good. The first Gedol Hashem comes out good. So now we got a problem. If the first Gedol Hashem comes out good, so what are we going to do? Yeah, he might be market the second one. He might be market the second Gedol Hashem from the second Gedol, and really he's not. He has to use the first one. Avina had said, Avina brings a raya from a different place. From where do we see it? You can take the Malchus. We also had learned in the Mishnah. Asham Shemeisu be'alav. Asham, that the owners died before he could be maked the chatas. Oy Sheniskaper be'alav, or the owner designated an animal for kapara, and the animal ran away. He took a different animal, and he was miskaper with that one. So the Gemara says, so what do you do with the one that comes back? You let it pasha till it gets, you let it eat till it gets a mum, and you sell it, and the money goes as an adava. Rabbi Elazar says you have to kill the animal. It's a asham. We're talking about a kabim asham, and why does it say asham should die? Because he learns the drasha of, it says kachatas ka asham. Whatever you do with a chatas, you do with the asham. And by a chatas yachid, the Torah says befeiris, you have to kill it. If the owner, only a tzibur, it's good. The kappa, strong man. Okay, so he says. So here he says asham has a din like a chatas. That's how Rabbi Elazar learns. Rabbi Shua says no, chatas is not the asham is not like chatas. You bring the bala asham brings the money, and that's what he uses he brings the money, meaning he leaves it till he gets a mum and takes the money and buys a new animal, and that's when he's makriv.
I mean, this ocean that came back.
Yeah, the session that came back, he wait till he gets a mum, then he sells it and uses the money and he buys oil. He says, why don't you use velika haguf let it be market this in itself. Say that this, a third rai, I think. How many? 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. This was the third raya. Says the Gemara, "Elalav zerelach hakapara otelifnei kapara." Same idea. Where it's a gzeira because after the kapara, because of the fnei kapara, if the animal comes back before he shechted it, we're afraid he's going to shecht the new animal that he designated, and the old animal was really supposed to be mechuyim al tachatas as a hashim. Yeah, yeah. Tanya Nami Yachvi similarly. Mahim mavi'in. Min hamaisores, to which type of a category of a carbon would they be marking the carbonis that were left over at the end of the year? What would they do with kayets? They would use it as like a dessert. B'nai shuach means like white figs, lamizbeach from the mizbeach. That's what they would do with the animal. He's saying there would be markiv like tmidim that were left over. What would they do with it? So we said kayets. You remember kayets means whenever the mizbeach is empty. Yeah. So it was like a dessert.
The big barbecue.
Yeah, but it was a dessert. Sweets like the b'nai shua, like white dates. Yeah. In fact, how could you use that expression? But see, and including that isur, right, is any pedis of an elon is not allowed to be brought on mizbeach. So how could you give the example? It's like b'noi shuach that you use for the mizbeach. So as you want to tell me, Rabbi Chanina learned b'noi shuach le'adam. It doesn't mean for the mizbeach. Just like a person uses figs for a little dessert, then a meal, in his table, you have to wash down. These carbonis was like a quinoa. Okay. Rav Nachman Rav Chisda dashen ein mikaitzin v'oilas. Meaning that you're not allowed to put on the mizbeach when the mizbeach was empty oila v'oif. Amarava hay borcha. This Rav Nachman Rav Chisda is ridiculous. He says, what are you talking about? There's no foundation to it. Rav Nachman Rav Yitzchak Rav Nachman Rav Yitzchak said to Rav, my burgers, what are you saying that there's no Yisrael? No, I'm reading that Hala. He says the Rabbi said, I'm the one that said it. He says, I'm the one that said this. To Rav Nachman Rav Chisda.
You can use an oil.
Yeah. So the Gemara, Umishmeid Rav Simon Ben Ado, I'm reading the Hala. And in the name of Rav Simon Ben Ado, I said it to him. Rav Simon Ben Ado. Rav Simon Ben Ado had said, Moisoras lenidvas tzibur ozli, the carbonis that were left over go as a nidvas tzibur, meaning that they are sold with the mum, and with their money that you sell with the mum, you buy oilos. What kind of oilos tzibur? For kais hamizbeich, ve'ein oilos oiv b'tzibur, and oilos oiv cannot be brought for tzibur because that's how he learns. So that's a tzibur cannot bring from the kabbanis oiv. So the hira that Rav Nachman Rav Chisda dashen is not baseless. There is basis to it from this din. Yeah, from this member. So that's what about Shmuel Sabla Hadar Rabbi Yochanan. Even Shmuel holds like what Rabbi Yochanan had said before we brought down that Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Shimon, says tmidim that were not needed, those four tmidim, they could be brought onto the kayetz hamizbeach, not for stam for oila. It's not a chatas, so you're allowed. So the Gemara brought down that Shmuel holds of this thing. Shmuel kabbanis tzibur, the kabbanis tzibur sakin meshachton l'mashein. The din of kabbanis tzibur, which is a tmidin, which are oilis tmidin. When you shach these animals, it could be brought on the mizbeach because it brings it back to the original status of Oila. He says they didn't kabana sigu shechritas mistam mashachtam lemin hakom shehuk dishu metchila aburei, because the chatchila, what was it designated for? Oilas tamid. Now what are you doing? Putting it on the mizbeach as Oilas kayitz, Oilas nedava. Something about it. Al Zayla. That's why he says you could use it. That's the raya that Shmuel holds of Rabbi Yochanan. We just said it. Tanya Nami Hochi. We also learned the Braisa that teaches us this. Rab Shimon admits that by a goat that was designated for a chatos, and of that day, if he didn't bring it for that yom tov, then he can bring it on his chedesh.
But still it's a chatas, right?
Yeah, but now we're talking about it as a chatas. His chedesh forgives for which chatas? For Adam Tahir that ate kachin tmeim. And he says, let's say there was a behemoth that ran away, and he wasn't able to be makrish chedesh. He took another one instead. Yikra b'yoyim hakipurim. He could sacrifice it for the sin of Yom Kippur, which is also chatas, of course, but for the chatas that there was only a yediyah basof. And if there was a case where he was supposed to bring the Yom Kippurim, the Sirach, and he didn't bring that behemoth, a different one he brought, the other one came back, which goes for the sin, there was lo yediyah b'tchila v'lo basei. And if there was a case where he brought from one specific Yom Tov and he didn't use it, he can bring it for the next. So he says, all of them have in common that the kapara is only using the mizbeich hachitzon. He uses the mizbeich hachitzon as the thread that they all have in common.
So it doesn't matter which Yom Tov.
It doesn't matter which Yom Tov. He could use that animal for any other of the other sins.
So you just keep it and make sure it doesn't get moved, right?
Right, of course, yeah. Says the Gemara. So he says, according to that, he would hold the same thing is with the tmidin, since it's being used as a oila. Of course, on the mizbeach you can use it for oilas tamid, so you can use for oilas kayitz. Valsdoin tumas mikdash v'kadashu sorry hanas befnim. He says on somebody who is amazed in the tuma of that he was tamei and he entered the Beis Hamikdash b'mezid, or he was tamei and he ate kachim, which he wasn't allowed. It was tamei. The sir, which is brought bifnim, that's the girl Hashem. The sir that was meant to be sacrificed in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and also the blood was sprayed outside the pareches, but towards the pareches. He says that forgived on the mezid. On a mezid, somebody was amazed by mikdash v'kadoshov. How do we know that if he was amazed by mikdash v'kadoshov, that the Sorah Apnimi forgives on him? And it says, Umi pish eyam lechol chatoisam. So he says, Umi pish eyam pshoyim. It forgives for the pshoyim, for mezid, that he knew he was tamei and he ate kodesh. He knew he was tamei and he entered the Beis Hamikdash. Elu hamerodin. These are the rebellious ones. Where do we see that? That pshoyim means rebellious. So it says in the pasuk, Melech Moya Pashabi, that the Melech of Moya, it says in Malachim that he rebelled against me. It says by the Teishrei Ha'ir of Livna that they were made it. It says Os Tivsha Livna Beisahi. So you see the Lashon Pshia means mazit, that they were rebellious. Chatois, it's mechaper on Elu Hashgogis. What's chatois? Pshoyim are those that are rebels, amazing. Chatoim, if it gives on chatoim, goes on Hashgogis. What do we see? Chatois means Bishoigei. It says in the pasuk, nefesh kisachta. You see, it says the lashon sechta, and then it says bishgaga. So you see, shoigig means achatas. We learned Al Shor Abel Shabbat Torah that the Seir Hachitzin, the one that went Azazel, had forgiven, aside from the Mezid on Mikdash v'Kadoshim that the Seir Apnimi forgave. The Seir Hachitzin forgave al Akalis, al Achamuris, al Azdonis, al Ashgogis. Hoida v'loy hoida, asay v'loy sasay. The Seir Hachitzin. the seer that they brought, the seer Musa Nishlas, the seer Musa, I'm sorry, the seer that they brought Bachutz. There was a seer that they brought Bachutz. The Musa, seer Musa Achitza. Says Gemara, what are you saying? You ala kalis, and then you say Hainu kalis, Hainu asevelois hasei. In the same pasuk that it says ala kalis, it says ala asevelois hasei. So it's the same thing. Chamuris Hainu krisis bezdin, Hainu krisis umisis bezdin. And he says Chamuris, this is krisus and Mrs. Bezdin. So it's the same avedes. So why is he mentioning it twice? And so too hoida, that he was aware. I know amazing. That's amazing. So what do you have to say? Hoida and zdoinis. Lo hoida. And if he wasn't aware, I know Sheikh is the same thing. Rabbi Yehuda says Hachikama. I'll show Abedas Shabbat Torah. And all the other Abedas in the Torah, the Sir Mivtza Musve Hachitzoin forgave on all other Abedas. Bein Abedas Kalois, Bein Abedas Chomuris. Whether they were light Abedas, whether they were Chomadik Abedas. It doesn't mean Shoigig Amazit. Chamuris and Kalas means if it was a harsh Aveda or a light Aveda. Shasam b'Shoigig, bein Shasam b'Shoigig, bein Shasam b'Amazit. Whether he did it b'Shoigig, whether he did it b'Amazit. Chomadik Aveda could be he did it b'Shoigig or b'Amazit. Kalas he did it b'Shoigig or b'Amazit. Shasam b'Shoigig, bein Noida loy Sveikum, bein loy Noida b'Sveikum. Here we're not talking about a stam chatas that you have a carbon already designated for, because if it's a chatas you have to bring a carbon for, then there's no need. Once you have to be, if there's a chatas that you have to bring for, then you don't. The simus hachitzen doesn't forgive for, because you already have a chatas. So what is he talking about? That it's a case of he became aware of his suffering. L'mashal, there was a chaylev. There's a chaylev that's muta, and there's a chaylev that's asa, and he took one of the chaylev. Okay. He ate one of the chaylev. He doesn't know which one he ate. So either he was aware that he ate one of the. It is Hashem. That's what he means over here. Hashem Toli. Whether he was noida or not. What are the kalis? The mitzvah say and the leisa say, in which there's no punishment of kares or Mrs. Bezdin. And which one are the chamunes? Those that are krisus or Mrs. Bezdin. I think we'll stop here.